Hi, my name's Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on Microsoft 365. This one's not my book, but all the building blocks are there, so check it out if you have a chance. So let me tell you what the situation is. This is all going to be on PowerApps and SharePoint today. And really comes with one that I was struggling with on the design. So the way I like to design a Power App is to start with the SharePoint or other Dataverse or whatever the data is, and then go to the UI. So I started with what I'm calling requesters here. And the key is this person column. So I've got it as a person, and so if I'm inside of actual SharePoint, I can type in, I only have everybody in my family, so I got those are the 3 people that are in my Office 365. So my brother, my wife, and myself. And but obviously in a huge organization that it's thousands and thousands of people. So that one's pretty straightforward. I went ahead and put a title in there, and what I wanted to do then was have a groups. So we're basically doing like a carpool app. So we can say, okay, who are the people that are in the carpool? But maybe there's also, other types of groups, maybe handicapped or executive or something like that. So some groups would have multiple requesters, some would only have one. You can kind of see them over here. But when we look at that in SharePoint, we have that requester. It's a lookup to the other one. And we're already going to be a little bit of a struggle, so it allows you to pick the item, but it doesn't actually give you the ability to bring over the person. So this is kind of a long-standing thing in SharePoint, but when we get over to PowerApps, it just becomes more challenging than I expected. I've done person columns a lot, and you'll see other videos with that, but this is the first time I've tried to do multiple values. So see that checkbox right there, allow multiple values. That makes it considerably more complicated, unfortunately. So let's jump into PowerApps. I've gone and just made one. I haven't even saved it yet. It's called the video linked person column one, but just with a blank screen. So I just kind of want to go through, and hopefully this will help you out as well. So let's let's do our data sources first. So I'll add data, go to SharePoint. And what I want to do is add links to both of our lists. So I'll come over here. Hopefully it'll remember our sites. So I've got the requesters, and I'll connect to that. And I'll add another one. Same site, and I'll grab the groups. Alright, so let's go back over here. I'll insert a gallery, which went off my screen here. And for now, I'm just going to connect it to the groups. And I'll change this over to, where do I want to do that? Oh, right here, sorry. And just change it to title. So I'm going to leave this as the group name, and what I want is all I really had in there was the group name, and I want to get all the requesters in there. So let's give ourselves a little more space. And a couple things. So first thing is just to get our hands on the requester. And you can kind of tell from when we looked in SharePoint, you notice those were all numbers. But let's just copy and paste this one, and we'll put it over. So how do I get all the requesters in there? So I'm going to use the concat function. We're going to do a lot of this. So I'll concat, and if you might look, the first thing is a table. So our requester, and then the next thing is the expression. What do I want? And what I want, there's only 2 things in there, the value and the ID, which are basically the same, and I can tell it to put a comma in between. So you can see, okay, I got the 1 and the 2, and that's not too bad. So let's copy that again. What else can I do with it? Well, let's see if I can get my hands on the actual person's name, the display name. So I'm still going to concat. This is where it gets more complicated. So I'll just get rid of that part. And we're going to do this a lot too, the for all function. So it gives us the source, which what we're going to loop through. So that's this item dot requester again. And then I need to provide the formula. And basically what I'm doing is what do I want to create out of it. So I'm going to create the name. And now I need, the problem is I have the ID, but I have to go back to the other list to look it up. So that's a good use of the lookup. So, and since I'm going to loop it, I'm going to do this for each item in the requester. So for 2, 3, 1, so forth. So I'm going to look up requesters, and now I can use any, these are the columns in requesters. So it's actually this ID with capital D, where that's equal to the ID property. So it's this item dot requester dot ID lowercase. Oh, why it's not obvious why it's that way. So that gives us, so it won't tell us, but it's a record, I think. I mean, it is a record. I just don't know if it tells us yet because it's kind of in context there. But it'll know, because if I say display name, oh, no, sorry, that's the whole record, the whole row. So I need the requester column, and then I can do the display name. Okay, and that's all in an object. And then I have to say what I want to display. So I'm named it the name. So I want to put the name ampersand comma space like that. See if we got that right. Let's see. Pick that. Yeah, and then if I format that, you can kind of usually get a warm fuzzy. If format's okay, you'll get some sort of deal there. Okay, so yeah. And you can do some gyrations. There's lots of articles on it to get rid of the comma afterwards. And, but we're close. Okay, so we got all that, and so we got our name. So we're making some progress. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, give us a little more space. Okay. But what that's a bit of a hack with the commas and all that stuff. So for this one, I actually want to use another gallery inside. So that was, the first part was just kind of getting us going, but I want to put another gallery inside the first. It gets a little complicated, so I'm going to go ahead and just select requesters and then change it to title, and then I'll kind of make it smaller so that we can get this. You see it kind of sorted that out. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll just kind of put this over here like that and just get it out and give us a little more room. Move that over like that. Maybe I'll even put it like this. And there we go. So I can get both people in there. All right. So let me move. Oh, and I should really name these. So let me do that while we're at it. So we'll call this Groups Gallery. And we'll call this one Requesters Display Gallery. And so we're just grabbing all of the data right now. But what our items need to be is actually our request of this item dot requester dot ID. Okay, so that's what we got there. And so similar to how we did the other bit, so we'll come in here, let's find our, let's put it in the formula. So it's giving us error because this item dot title doesn't work, but it's going to be similar. We're going to come up and say lookup requesters. So very much like we did before, ID equals this item dot ID. And what I want is the requester. So that whole thing is a record, and I'm going to grab the display name. There we go. Now I need to make this long enough. Let's actually go back down on this. I can't quite get it here because it's got a little long. Let me make it longer here so you guys can see it. Yeah, there we go. So let's move this up a little bit and move that so we have enough room for a couple. All right. Oh, and I don't want, inside of that, I don't want this guy. Whoops. Oh, allow me to undo. Yeah. All right, let me pause for a minute and I'll put that back in. All right, well, I'm back. I recreated that after I deleted it on accident and it didn't undo. So let's run this for a minute just so we can see it a little bit better. So we got 2 people on the second one and 1 requester on the first one, and I can click here. Nothing really much happens, but that gets us going. So let's see if I can't squish this a little bit more. Maybe I'll move that text down a little bit, size that text. Make it like 18. Press that a little bit. There we go. Because I'm going to want to squish this overall gallery. So we got to talk about searching now. So, all right, so let's do that as first. So that gets us, but now I want to have a search box. And so I'll add a text input. Put that up at the top, and we'll call this groups search box. I won't put any text in there. I'll even put an icon. Should be a little search box. We'll put that up there, and kind of next to it, we'll maybe put it over here. All right, so what we now want is to be able to search. And so I can do, let's just do something quick. So instead of groups here, I can filter. I got to put the text. So I'll say, okay, group name in group search box text, and I know I'll get a delegation error. We got different videos about that, but if I run that and I start typing in car, oops, should have worked. So I'm missing something. I'll go back and look at my formula again. Oh, I think I got these reversed, sorry. Group search box.text in group name. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. So if I got it empty, nothing will happen, but if I put in Georgia, which doesn't exist in there, then it goes away. So that works. But I've noticed if I start typing in Jeffrey, nothing. Okay, so I'm not getting inside my actual requesters, and I need to do that by their name. And I could even want to do it by their title or whatever, but since I'm showing the name, that's the most logical. So that one's kind of difficult because of the fact if we go back to SharePoint again, if I go back to my actual list, notice that it doesn't have, all it has is the numbers, and so I've got to do some gyrations to get in it. So there's probably a couple ways to do it. The one that made the most sense to me is to make another gallery. So I'll show you that, and maybe somebody can put in comments that they know another good way to do that. So I'm going to put this one to requesters again. I'm going to make it nice and small. change it over to titles. And I don't need this box. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter this one also by that same group box. So I'm going to filter requesters. So I'll do something similar in requester display name. Again, I could do more if I wanted them to do titles or whatever. I could just expand on this. And then it's doing title right now. What I really want to do, just to kind of show how it works, is put the ID in there. So let's watch this for a minute. So if I run, then if I start typing in Jeff, well, even though my one on the left goes away because I haven't put that up, the one on the right goes there. So I say Sue, if I say Rhodes, which is all three of them. So that gives me the IDs that work. So making some progress there. All right, hold on. All right, so let's go back and go to the groups gallery and see what else that we need to do. So similar with using that for all and so forth, like we did before. So we got the group name, and we'll just say or. And then now we're basically going to build our own table. So we're going to say yes in, and I'm going to do that concat like we did earlier. And then I'm going to say for all, and again our source, so that'll be our gallery. So this is our, oh, and I didn't name that yet. That was not good because I don't want to call it gallery 4. So I'll call it requesters lookup gallery. All right, so we'll go back to this guy. Dot all items dot ID. Remember, ID is what we have, so we're going to loop through those. We're going to say if ID in requester dot ID, we're going to put yes. And then if not, we're going to put no. All right. And then what are we going to get out of it? Well, if we put it like that, the only thing we get is value is what that will be called. Okay, so we're going to put value in that. Let's format that, see if, yep, so it liked it. So again, we're going to filter groups. We're going to do our original one, or we're going to look and see if, and since we have in the for all, we can't really see the value of it, but yeah, it'll be basically a yes if it's in there and a no if it isn't. So let's try that out, make it small. So now I'll say Jeffrey, yep. If I say Sue, if I say Rhodes, I get both of them. If I say carpool, if I say Georgia, nothing. Okay, so that's working. And what's kind of cool is I can go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and hide that now. So I can go to its visible property and set that to false. Just get out of the way if I can spell false. All right, so that was the first problem. And, you know, not too bad. So we got to display it. But the second problem was then how to edit it and actually show it. You know, obviously we could have done the gallery again once we click each one to kind of show all the records on the right side is typically how this kind of will work. But I need to be able to edit it. So that one's a little bit challenging using a little bit of the same thing. So, and then we want to patch it, update the record. So that'll be the rest of our video. So I played with lots of it. And there's a good video by Shane Young, who has a lot of great videos on PowerApps, but he talked a little bit about the default selected items, which helped. And there are 3 or 4 others but I didn't find anybody kind of put all these pieces together, which is why I'm doing this video. So let me do a button and we'll get that in a minute. We'll call that the patch request or patch groups. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to input a combo box. We need the combo box, not drop down in this case. I'm not, because we want to, I'll just make it a little bit bigger there. Because we want to be able to add to it and search, and it's the search that gives us that capability there. All right, so what do we do for this? So like many drop-down boxes, what we want to do is do the choices from our column. Okay, so that's the first thing we want to do. One thing I want to make sure we don't forget, because this bit me for a while, is notice the allow searching is set to false. We need to turn that on, because that cost another half an hour of messing around why I couldn't add anybody after that when it was simply a matter of that one. Okay, then the next thing we need to do is look at the default selected items. You might recognize the syntax. Let me make that a little smaller. It's similar to what we did earlier. Okay, so we want, and this can be a table or a record. In this case, we want it to be a table. So we're going to go back to our friend, the for all function. Oh, and actually I forgot something. So a couple things. First, let me rename this, and I'll call this requesters combo box. I need to go back here, and I need a variable, and I forgot to put that in. So I'll do this a lot. I'll say on, when I select it, I'll say var selected group, and then I'll just say our gallery oh, actually this is not question, it's groups gallery selected. Alright, so I'll go back to this one that I was in the middle of. So I'm going to use that thing. So var selected group dot requester, and then I'm going to look up from requesters, same thing I did before. So that'll find us the right row, and then I have to get the requester side of that. So that will give us all the records in the requesters, that match up with my group. So basically the records of all the requesters in my group. All right, and let's run it. So oh, and I forgot to tell it to put the display name, so it put the claims instead. So we're close. So I got to come over here, go to advanced, and then it says that I want to show claims in there, and I would just put display name. Now you could put picture and stuff as well. Very importantly, I want to search on the display name as well. So let's try it again. There we go. So we got our next one. If I click on it, I've got the two things I want to do, and I've also got the ability to add. That is search. So I've got an interface for doing it. So we're making some progress. So that took just a second. I swear it took a long time to figure out exactly the permutations on how to get that going. So we're making good progress, but we're not out of the woods yet. Because what we need to do is go ahead and figure out how to write this now back to SharePoint, which isn't trivial either. But I want to kind of bring you along. So let me show you exactly how I did it. I wanted to get some variables and collections and stuff just so we could see, because to figure it out we kind of really got to understand what's going on. So let's just do that. Plus it helps us with variables for a minute. So when this button, first I'm going to do one called updated requesters. And I'm just going to get the combo box, selected items, and just see what it looks like there. And I'm also going to set another variable. I'm just going to call it var current requester. And I'm going to just take our the selected group and just look at what the value of that requester is, because I want to see what it looks like. So let's start with that. Again, I can format text and do that. So let's go in and click it. I'll click one with multiple records just so we can see how it looks, and I'll click patch groups. So then we can go over to view variables. And we already looked at the selected group, we know what it is, but we're going to say, okay, what's the updated requester? So here's what it gives us: the claims, the department, the display name, the email. So that's your person column information. Okay, so that's what's in the combo box. So that's not a big surprise. But now we go back again and let's look at what's in the requester. So if we looked at what's in there, see, this is a little bit different. It actually just has the ID and has the value. And if we look closely back to SharePoint, we'll see that the ID doesn't really do anything. It's the value, the 2 and the 3. So let's just go verify that. So yeah, see, that's the 2 and the 3. So the ID is behind the scene. It's actually the value that's the requester's ID, if you will, from the lookup list. So that helps us go forward and figure out what we want to do. So the gist of it is we need to provide this kind of info to patch it, to update that column. So we'll go back to our button here. So I'm going to have a collection. I'm going to make sure I clear it first. And you can't clear collect here because it's going to be in a loop. So we're going to just call it updated requesters. So I'm just going to clear it first in case it already has a value. And I'm going to use my old friend for all again. And we're going to go through the selected items. So I should copy that from here. And what we're going to do then is we're going to collect. So we're going to build a new collection. And we're going to build the one that I just cleared. And what I'm going to do is build the columns. And so I just saw what we need. I need the ID. So that one easy way, I saw in one article, which I liked, is I can just count the rows of my collection. Now that will start with 0 to there, so I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to it. Because I like the one we just looked at started with 1 instead of 0. It doesn't really matter. And then we want a value. Now the value is the ID in the requester's list. So again, our friend lookup here, we're going to look up requesters. And we're going to, in this case, I thought I might use the claims because the IDs, I don't really have a way. Remember, that was that first one. I have claims, display name, email, and so forth. But the claims, that's kind of the most data. So I just thought I'd say, okay, requester.claims. I'm not quite sure why I'm not getting telesense here, but equals claims. So sometimes PowerApps will do this if it just kind of lost what I'm doing here. it may not give me a telesense. We may have to back out, but we'll see what we can do. Let me finish it off. Oh, it doesn't like that count rows. Oh, that's because I missed the D here. Updated. There we go. That's why I didn't get any telesense. Now I've lost my thing. All right, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Now let me pause for a minute. All right, I'm back because I just had gotten that off the screen. So anyway, now that I formatted, you see we've got it now. It looks good. I formatted it. So let's go ahead and try it out before we go ahead and do the patch. So I'm going to run this one, do it with a couple rows, and I'll patch it, which doesn't really patch yet, but we'll go back over. In this case, I want to view it collections. And you can see, okay, so just how I wanted it to look, ID and value. So looks promising. Let's give it a shot. So let's come back over here. And oops, I'm getting that right off the screen, aren't I? There we go. All right, so we're going to patch, and we're going to patch groups. And how do we know which group to patch? Well, we're going to look up, in this case, groups, where ID equals the one for our selected group. Okay, and that will give us our record. And then now what do we patch? In this case, the only thing I want to do is the requester. And I'm going to put it that column, that collection that I did. And that's it. Again, I can format it. See that it did. So let's play here. Again, notice I can go in between. I'll go to this first one. I'll add Sue and patch. Ah, nice. You see it added it here. Let's go look at SharePoint. Oh, you can see it actually did it right there, but if I reload it, it's there as well. Let's go over here. See if I can remove one. So I'll remove Sue from that. Patch it. Went away. Nice. Yeah, hey everybody. I know this is jumping into the video, but I was looking at it and realized that we actually had an error. So I've jumped into right where we were doing it, and I want to show you the error. So what I just did on the video is I was testing it, and I went in here and actually I demo it. Let's see. So I got rid of Sue and patched it, and it put me, but if you look closely at the video, it had a different name here first. So let's see if we can recreate it, because it was James Rhodes, and then I deleted it, and then it ended up with myself, Jeffrey Rhodes. Yeah, so see, you can see the problem. So I've got the Jeffrey Rhodes is right, but it says James Rhodes over here, and it's Sue Rhodes is wrong. So what is an error in the earlier video is where I said it didn't depend on the ID, it depended on the value. It's actually the reverse. So let's go fix that and show that it works now. So my apologies on that, but let's fix it before we even get this video out. So if we go back to this part here, where we come in here and we build our collection, we want to just reverse those two. So it's actually the value that doesn't make any difference. So we just put the count rows there, and it's the ID, so the IDs do match up. And I just didn't have a big enough data set to really notice that at first, so I can format that. So let's try that again. So now again, I'm looking up the actual ID and putting it in the ID column, and the value is, doesn't really matter. So let's run that. So now let's go look at what our actual values are. So it says Sioux Road, so we'll try to get rid of that and patch it. So that one seems to work. Let's add James, and now we have James, good. And then let's get rid of me and see if it gets rid of me. Yeah, so looks like it works now. So my apologies there, but hopefully this will save you some time. And again, just working with these person columns is a little bit challenging. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.